Hello, friends. Very good evening to all of you. And friends, we are now going to discuss the section B essays. So I hope you can see me and please participate in this essay and this particular class uh, and share your views. Jai Hind, Shekhar. Welcome to the class. So, did you attend yesterday's class also? I think you have attended the yesterday's class also. If you have any doubts on that, please ask me. We are going to shortly start the class. So if you have any doubt, any questions, please feel free to ask anything you have in your mind. So friends, today we are going to discuss the second section of the essay, and there were basically four essays which were asked this year, and this was girls are weighed down by restrictions, boys with demands too equally harmful discipline. Then the next essay, which I think was the most difficult essay, and that was Mathematics is the Music of Reason. This is really, I think this was the most difficult essay, and really you have to think a lot, and I have to also think a lot. So unless you are prepared this type of essay, I think it is better not to attempt such essay in the UPSC. But very interesting topic, and we are going to discuss this essay also today. Then the next essay was a society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. That means if we bring justice in the society, then the need for charity will be less. Another very interesting topic, and it also deals with the social justice. And finally, we have the essay on the topic education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. So, good evening, Shasidhar. Good evening, and you were quite active yesterday also. And I hope that you learned some valuable lessons from the yesterday's essay. And you see, whenever we have this philosophical topic essays, a good thing about this is that even if you are totally unprepared, if you know the skill of writing the philosophical essays, then you can write a great essay on that topic. Any topic you can write. So, in a way, you can say philosophical essays are the essays where you have got the maximum scope of creativity, and they are the easiest to write because you require minimum preparation for that. And I have already advised you that you must always remember quotations because, first of all, you must have seen that all these essays topics are based on some quotations. So, once you are preparing for quotations, once you are memorizing certain quotations, that means you are also understanding the quotations themselves. And once you understand the quotation, then it can be expressed into 1000 to 1200 words. At the same time, the same quotations can be used when you are writing the essay. Okay, so just like you have to produce a lot of data when you are writing the essays pertaining to other topics, in case of philosophical topic, all you have to do is to produce different type of quotations to make it beautiful. Otherwise, even without quotation, you can write the essay if you can understand the meaning of the essay. Okay. So let's start with the first topic. And the first topic was girls are weighed down by restrictions and boys with demands to equally harmful discipline. Okay. So this topic is actually, I think, very commonsensical topic, and this is a very easy topic also because we can write, in this particular essay as to what are the type of restrictions, because we know that the girls in our society, or for that matter, any society, they have to face a large number of restrictions. And when you have restrictions, then what happens that you are unable to grow. You cannot choose many professions and all that. So this is a rather a simple topic. And as far as the boys are concerned, their responsibilities are more, the demands are more, and both things are mutually harmful. That's what we have to demonstrate. But at the same time, I would advise you to write a antithesis also into this. That means you must also show as to how the boys and girls are different, and how their certain roles are also required, certain different roles they must play. Okay. So, what are the questions that come into your mind that, the type of questions, brainstorming questions, which I always say that you must ask, because only from these questions you will get the ideas as to what type of, what type of material you have to produce. So, first question automatically comes that what are the restrictions on girls? And here we can give the different type of restrictions which are imposed on girls. We already know that all we have to do is to reproduce them. Then what are the demands of the boys? We know that a lot of things are expected from boys. So those things also we know very well and we can write it here. How girls are weighed down by restrictions. So it is in general, whenever you have restrictions, you are not able to move properly, you are not able to grow properly. So we can illustrate that also. Same way we can say as to why how the boys are weighed down by the demands. Then the question is that why these restrictions and demands? Because the main reason is that gender stereotype. Because in our society, we allocate different roles to the gender. So the men are supposed to do certain things which the women are not required to do, and the women are required to do certain things which men are not required to do. And this gender stereotyping is something which is responsible for, different treatment given to the boys and girls. So we can discuss as to how this gender stereotypes are created and how that basically harm the growth of the people. And then we can also discuss as to what are the reasonable demands and restrictions. Now, this is something which I believe we must discuss because boys and girls are biologically different, and we cannot assume that they must perform identical functions. So there are certain things which the boys can do better, and there are certain things which the girls can do better. And if you choose a profession which is better for you, or you do something which is suitable to your, physique and your mental aptitude, you can do better. So that also we can discuss here. And then finally, we can say as to how we can ensure that these restrictions are reduced and the demands are reduced so that there is a proper growth of all human beings whether they are boys or girls. Okay, so these are the so friends, as you know that if we ask these questions, and these questions we have created only from the topic itself, that will help you write the essay of any philosophical topic. Okay, so far any doubts, please ask. Now, as I said, that certain quotations, there's of course these quotations I searched from internet, and I remember some of the quotations also. So you must have a repository of the quotation for scoring good marks in the essay. These quotations are useful because one thing is that this give you idea to write essay. Like one quotation you can expand in the one paragraph. So that way you can give different ideas and make different colors to your essay. And the second thing is that it beautifies and it break the monotony of the essay. And so your essay will look more interesting if you are writing certain quotations. So these are the quotations which I have selected. You can have your own quotations. If women are expected to do the same work as men, we must teach them the same things. That is the plateau. That means if from the childhood we are teaching different things to men and women, naturally they will not be able to do the same thing. So if you want that they should be treated equal, then from the childhood we must do the proper upbringing. Another by Ban Ki-moon, who was the former Secretary General of United Nations. Achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men and girls and boys. It is everyone's responsibility. That means every person in the society must work for empowerment of boys and girls. I measure the progress of community by the degree of progress which the woman has achieved by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And this is a beautiful quotation that shows that we have to ensure that the women grow as much as the men. Another beautiful quotation by Mary Istell, which says that if all men are born free, how is it that women are born slaves? And this is because the women do not get freedom in their life to do what they want, and men have the freedom. So this is a beautiful quote which we can use on the appropriate place. Okay, please ask your questions, any doubt, anything, or participate in that if you have anything to ask. Now, so this is how we have now we are now going to elaborate the essay. Okay. Now we can, in the introduction, we can just define the problem. Like the nature created both men and women differently with their unique strength and weakness. Now, this is something which I want you to remember all the time, that exact, replication of men and women for the job is not right, because they have different attributes. They have some common attributes also. They have some different attributes also, and therefore the society has assigned different roles which are based on the suitability. But unfortunately, the society has been patriarchal. That means basically it was always dominated by the males. And therefore, what has happened that it has given more important role to males and men, and less important role to female. And it placed rather many restrictions on the women's, and because it was a male-dominated society, so most of the important roles were assigned to the men. Okay. Women were denied identity. They were used as supplement to men. They are supposed to take care of the family, take care of the children, and they should be happy becoming a wife of an important person. So they were not supposed to have their individual ambition and individual goals, because their goals were supposed to be with their husband or their parents. And this is how the society has evolved. Men were treated superior and they were given more important role, but at the same time, they were also given more responsibilities. Okay, so those things also we'll discuss in the essay. And this undue restriction on the girls and undue demand of the boys basically hampered the goal of all human beings. So this is how we can start the introduction, and then we can talk about the in the body we can talk about the different type of restrictions which has been there on the girls. For example, the girls are supposed to take care of the children. It is supposed their responsibility. They are supposed to prioritize their family over the personal aspirations. So they must suppose the job is there, and so when the child is there, they should take leave. They should take care of the child. This is what is expected, that personal aspirations must be set aside, and they must take care of the family. They must also look beautiful and attractive. This is another burden on the women. They must avoid many male dominated jobs and professions, for example, army, police, taxi driving, surgery, engineering, politics. These are the professions which are not supposed to be suitable for the women, and the women are not preferred there. Of course, nowadays more women are going, but still their numbers are very few. They're also asked to be submissive, dress modestly. They should avoid traveling in the night, and they should avoid taking risks. So these are the restrictions which has been posed on the girls. Okay, so we can discuss this in one or two paragraphs. Then we can also discuss about the demands on the boys. There are while the girls has been given the restrictions, so they are not able to do what they are capable of doing. Boys has unnecessary burden of responsibility, because they are the sole bread earner of the family. They are supposed to earn for the entire family. Even if the woman is educated, the woman does not go, then the man has to go. The woman have the option to work or not work or become a housewife, but the man does not have the option. Man has to necessarily earn, isn't it? So is it not a burden? This is a demand. This is what is the expectation of the society. So you have to protect your family. You have to take care of the parents. You are not supposed to cry or complain. So men are supposed to be strong. They are not supposed to cry or complain. Then they are also expected to bring dowry, and they are also required to focus on the physical strength. They have to be as strong as they can. They are supposed to work harder and work for long hours. And even in the hazardous job like army or police, where the life is difficult, where the accidents are more, they are supposed to join those professions instead of women. So all the hazardous professions are to be joined by the men, and so that basically is something which is unnecessary demands on the boys. And if the burden is shared by the women, automatically they will have more freedom to live the life in their own way. Now, the question is that how this has been created, how this gender stereotype has been created. First of all, religion and scriptures. You know that the religions define the god and goddesses, and the god is given primacy in almost all religion. The goddesses are supposed to only accompany them, supplement them, and then they provide you a roadmap as to how we should behave. So, for example, you see Ramayana, for example. So Ram has a dominant role, Sita is a supporting role. That is how you can see in almost all the scriptures that they provide you a specific role, and then people follow that role. Then culture and traditions also prescribe different roles for the society. So you can see if you are in an Islamic country, the role of the women is much lower, and if you go to the Western countries, the role is much more. If you are in a country like India or China, then their roles are reasonably balanced, or at least they are improving. The press and media also create a stereotype by highlighting different type of roles. Movies and fiction also, which we read, will present a stereotype that the men will always be shown to be action hero. They'll be fighting. They will be fighting against the injustice. The women will be, they have to look beautiful and they have to entice the man and all those things. Indirectly, engage the mind of the people and ask them to play a different type of role. Then the advertisements are also play a very important role. You can see that advertisement have a specific gender specific role. So the woman has been shown to be attractive and they will be shown to beautiful, and they, so you can see that the women are portrayed in a very different manner in advertisement than the men, and that is also one of the way the gender stereotypes are created. Then lack of education and economic independence is also something, because if the women were not given earlier education, then they were thought to be having lesser mind, and they were not supposed to vote, or they were not supposed to be as intelligent as men. But you see that when they have been given education in modern time, then they are able to outperform the boys, or at least they are equal to the boys, and they have proven that if they have been given opportunity, they can really do as good as the boys. So these are also the reasons why the gender stereotype is created. And if unless we provide them education and opportunities, give them economic independence, they will not be able to prove that they are equal. Okay. So this is how the gender stereotypes are created, and we have to remove the gender stereotype. Now, what happens if what happens? That there is undue restrictions and demands on men and women. So if suppose women are restricted, for example, suppose they are not supposed to take care of the family, their parents, then what happens that because parents often see the children as someone who will take care of them in the childhood, when they will become old. And so if the female is supposed to go to another person's house, in that case, what happens? In that case, the women become undesirable. Because of the dowry, they become undesirable. And so what happens that there are female infanticides, then they are not provided equal opportunity in education and job, then they are forced to sacrifice their career for the family, and they can't take risk and be creative, and they never enjoy freedom to do what they want to do. This is because of the restriction, because they're supposed to play the role which I have already described. At the same time, because there is undue demands on the males, that also creates problem for the males, because they can't leave the job to pursue their passion. Because the woman can leave the job, woman can become a housewife, but the men cannot do it, and so they have to take care of the family and the parents and all that. So this is another problem. They have to suppress the emotions. They can't weep, they can't cry, and so what happens that they suffer numerous mental problems. And they are also accused in the family problem. If suppose something wrong happens, then people accuse the male for that, not the woman. Sometimes the women are also responsible, but often the male take the blame. Then carry lifetime burden of parents, spouse, and children. I mean, they are never free when as they become as they grow, they have to share the responsibility of their spouse and the parents and the children, and they're never free in their life. And because they have to take a lot of hazardous jobs, so you will find that they die early because of excessive risk and responsibility, isn't it? So these are some of the problems. You don't think that the life of the man is easy or the life of the woman is easy. Both of them, because of the restrictions in the society and because of the undue expectation from the society, both of them have a poor quality of life. But at the same time, equality, total equality is actually not possible. And this is how I suggest that you should write the antithesis on that. Because there is a biological difference between men and women. Men are tall and they have more physical strength. They are more suitable for some professions. And women are better at nurturing due to their biology. For example, if suppose army is there, when there is a physical fight, in that case, definitely the males can perform better, isn't it? Because they're more physical strength. The women are better at nurturing because they give birth to the child. So that is something we should remember, that that they are biologically different. They are created by the nature to play the complementary role. They complement each other rather than competing each other. And if both parents are career oriented, then the children also suffer. This is another negative point. And we see a lot of that happening in the Western countries when both of them are going to the job, then divorces are increasing, and that because of that, the children are suffering. That is happening very widely in the Western countries. Then protection of the vulnerable. Another reason, for example, the women are not sent to the hazardous job, for example, in army or truck driving or like that. One of the reason is, or in the night they are not supposed to go, or they're not allowed to go because they're more vulnerable to sexual violence, and therefore some restrictions has been posed on them to safeguard them, and not because you do want to harm them. Okay. Now, what can be done? As we said, we have highlighted the problem, but what could be done? So here we can give some suggestions. For example, right of opportunity, equality of opportunity in education, jobs, and society. Because this is very important. You see, nowadays you will find that in civil services, for example, you will find more women are getting selected. If you look at the proportion of the people who are appearing in the civil services examination, then you will find that the success rate of women is more than the boys. And imagine that, just a couple of decades ago, the women were not at all there in the civil services because it was thought to be male's domain. So, if they because they have been given education opportunities and job opportunities, that is why they have been able to demonstrate that they are as good as the male. So all profession must be made gender neutral. Everywhere the women must be allowed, and of course it is up to the women. Suppose the job is hazardous, they will not go. But at least the job should be allowed. If the women want to go, so for example, if they want to drive trucks, or if they want to drive taxis, like I have seen a lot of women driving taxis in the Western countries. So if they want to do it, why not? They can do it. Selection must be made on merit and performance, and if you are able to deliver, you should be selected for the job. Men also must be taught to share the family responsibilities. This is also very important. They should take care of the children, cooking, and other household job, because this is what is happening in the society. That even the women are working, they are still supposed to take care of the family. Now, this is something which is not desirable and good. The men must also share the responsibility of the home. Financial responsibility should be also shared. The women must also earn, and both of them must share the responsibilities. Media campaign must be done to break the stereotype. Gender neutral laws must be there so that nobody feels discriminated, and action must be taken against the gender stereotyping and discrimination. So, if suppose there is a advertisement, where stereotyping is done, or some political leader makes a statement which is stereotype the gender, then there should be total action against must be taken against that person. So finally, we can conclude that we should stop the gender stereotyping. We should provide just a level playing field to all the people, uh, reduce the restriction on girls and demands on boys, because that is good for everybody. You see, if the girls' restriction is reduced, they will do more things in life, and that will reduce the burden on the boys also. At the same time, so it's good. It is in the interest of everybody. And if you reduce the demands from the boys, expectation from the boys, then what will happen that they will also be able to do a lot of things which they are not able to do. So give freedom to every human to choose their profession and live their life. And finally, we can close the essay with the quotation that achieving gender equality requires engagement of women and men, girls and boys. It is everybody's responsibility. So that is how we can conclude. Societal norms and expectations placed on both genders on the two sides of the same coin, each with own sets of consequences. Uh, Shekhar, I've not understood what you're saying. Conclusion: social norms and expectations placed on both genders are two sides of the same coin, each with its own set of harmful consequences. Yes, I agree with that. And so, what we have to do is that we have to free the society from the gender bias and let the people achieve what they're best able to achieve, isn't it? Okay, now we are going to start the toughest essay which has been asked in this UPSC paper this year. Mathematics is the music of reason. What do you understand by this particular quotation? Can anyone tell me what is the meaning of this quotation? Mathematics is the music of reason. Yes. What do you understand by this? This is really a very tough essay. So please give your point of view. Give Share your point of view here. Meanwhile, I will just go for the general information about this particular topic. This is a quotation. Music is a mathematics and music of reason. Is by James Joseph Sylvester, who is an English mathematician, and he made a fundamental contribution to matrix theory, invariant theory, number theory, and partition theory. So this is for your information. Can we use various made recently to remove stereotype like allowing women to defense? And yes, absolutely, Muskan. You can definitely use that. There is no problem on that. You can definitely give some examples as to what are the steps taken by the government to allow the women remove the restrictions, like their equipment in the army, Sainik school, they are pilots. Now the reservation has also come. So all those things you can definitely quote here. Okay. Now mathematics is the music of reason. What do you understand by this? Mathematics is a means, an instrument to know why it is called music of reason. Why you call music of reason? I want to know. Sasidhar or Muskan, tell me, or anybody, why it is called music of reason? What is the meaning of this music of reason? Meanwhile, the brainstorming part, you type your answers. I will meanwhile say as to what are the brainstorming questions. So here, the key point is mathematics, music, and reason. These are the three important points. So on the basis of that, we can form certain questions. What are the characteristic of mathematics? Characteristic of music? What is basically reason? And what is the advantage of reason? Because reason is basically the key point, isn't it? It is the key point. The whole essay revolve around reason. Mathematics is a tool or as a music to reason, but reason is the main thing. So how the music and mathematics are related, how the mathematics is music to reason, and how mathematics can make reasoning better, and how can we use mathematics to improve reasoning. You see, you must have heard that, when we say, this news is music to my mind, or we say this was a music to my heart, isn't it? Sometimes we say like that. No, what is music? Music is something which means beautiful. So when we say that mathematics is the music of reason, that basically means is that mathematics, the use of mathematics makes the reason more beautiful, more universal, more acceptable. For example, if there is a poetry is interesting, no doubt. But when the poetry has reason also, when it is converted into song, then it become more beautiful. It become more memorable, isn't it? In the same way, if the reason has mathematical component, you understand? If any reasoning you give, it has can be proven by mathematics, empirical relations, then that reason is a better reason. That reason is more beautiful reason. Do you understand? This is basically the essence of the essay. This is what we have to establish, that how the mathematics can be used to beautify reason, to make it more convincing. Okay. As music transit cultural and linguistic barriers to communicate emotions and ideas, similarly mathematics transit cultural boundaries to communicate fundamentals. Yeah, and basically, Shekhar, we have to focus as to how mathematics can make reasoning more powerful. Okay, I'm going to explain that. I will explain that. Okay, just hold on for some time, and you can see how mathematics can make reason more beautiful, more acceptable. Okay, more universal. Now, first, some quotes. You can use some of the quotes. The law is reason free from passion. All the law has based on reason and not based on passion. God does not play dice with the word. That basically means that nothing happens in this world without a reason, and everything happens because of a reason. This is by Albert Einstein. You can't improve what you can't measure. That means if you want to improve something, you must measure it. And this is by Peter Drucker, who is a famous management guru. So unless you are a measure, and the moment you say measure, that means mathematics come into picture. Galileo's famous quote, nature is written in mathematical language. You can see whether it's a revolution of sun or whether it's attraction, gravity, whether it is electricity, whether it is anything, of nature. You can always express that a mathematical language. Mathematics is the most beautiful and most powerful creation of human spirit by Stephen Bannock. And mathematics is not about numbers, equations, computation, algorithm. It is about understanding. So this is I am going to explain by some examples as to how mathematics can strengthen the region. Okay, so this is what is something which is very important for you to know. Okay, in the introduction part, we can talk about mathematics first. Mathematics, is an inspiring subject of inquisitive mind for thousands of years. Because you see, we want something to be predictable, then we should be able to express that in the form of mathematics. For example, we know the reasons of solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, but and we have given so many theories earlier. Also, you have so many theories. Rahu Ketu theory was there, but those theories could not predict the solar and lunar eclipse. Now, when the science has discovered a theory and using mathematics, it is able to accurately predict, then that reasoning was accepted, and that's how we discarded those old theories and accepted the new theory. If suppose mathematics was not there, then nobody would have accepted the new theory. Okay. So we can use this quotation: mathematics is the most beautiful and most powerful creation of human spirit. Most people lack passion for mathematics and fail to appreciate the beauty of mathematics. Unfortunately, you will find that most people have passion for music, but they don't have passion for mathematics. And I tell you that if you do not have passion for mathematics, perhaps you cannot understand reason also. Because reason and mathematics are interconnected with each other. Okay. If the reason lack mathematics, it is a very weak reasoning. Okay. I will explain that later with help of example. Reason is the ability to think and make judgment, and reasoning can be subjective and opposite to each other, creating confusion and contradiction. The problem is, as you have seen, in the case of ethics, for example, you have a deontology principle and you have the utilitarian principle, and they are contradicting with each other. Now, which principle is right, which principle is wrong, you can't prove because there is no mathematical evidence as to which one is better. Okay, so the reasoning can be very subjective. Everybody can justify what he thinks is right, but ultimately reasoning should reach to the truth, and for that we require mathematics. I will explain that later. So mathematics people don't have the passion, while music create emotions and they generate passion in a common man. And emotions are inborn. Reasons needs cultivation, practice, and application. You see, everybody is emotional. And so what happens that music appeals to everybody because it appeals to emotion. But as far as mathematics is concerned, you have to require certain skills and certain reasoning skills and certain level of knowledge to appreciate mathematics. And since people do not are not that reasonable, or people don't use are not that rational, that's why they are not able to appreciate mathematics. I will tell you later as to how the good reasoning require empirical observations and practical application. And application of mathematics makes the reason more beautiful, convincing, and universal. And this is what we are going to prove in our essay. Okay, so let's start in the body. So this is how we introduce the topic. In the body, we can start that mathematics is a discipline which is rooted in the pure reason and verifiable evidence. Mathematics, is pure reasoning. You remember Albert Einstein? Albert Einstein has given this formula as E is equal to mc square purely on the basis of mathematical derivation. He had no empirical evidence of that. But ultimately, many decades after Einstein has given this formula, the scientist found his theorem of E is equal to mc square is correct. So remember that we can discover the truth of the nature by mathematics also. Mathematics is based on reason and logical deduction, and it is very precise and objective. Imagine E is equal to mc square, such a beautiful formula. Gravity, G m1 m2 by r square. So you can express all the things, and look so beautiful. All scientific laws and principles need mathematical validation. If that is not valid, then they will be discarded. To experience the tangible force encircling the universe, this tangible science has proved to experience them all. Intangible science. So science has basically able to, discover those laws of nature by reason, and then they were able to establish by experiments. Now, what is the similarity between mathematics and music we can discuss? For example, mathematics is based on 10 numbers. Music consists of 7 notes and 5 subnotes. Now, mathematics, is just 10 numbers are there. All the numbers can be expressed by these 10 numbers. In the same way, if you play any musical instrument, there are only 7 notes and 5 subnotes. And any piece of music can be played using these notes. Every number can be expressed by using 10 numbers, and therefore so you can say that the just like these music is the or the notes are the denominator of music. The same way the reason should also be able to express in the mathematical form, and if reason cannot be accepted in the mathematical form, they can't be accepted in this. Just like the music cannot fit into the 7 notes, it can't influence the emotion. Music touches the heart, mathematics influence the mind. Now, why it is called music of the reason? Now, this is something very important slide. Let's understand that. See, reason is based on logic. Mathematics is also based on logic. All mathematics is based on logic. And reason is also based on logic. So basically, they should converge and come to the same conclusion. Discovery of mathematical concept need passion as in music, and that is how they are similar to music. Uh, Most important thing, a reason become beautiful, convincing, and universal. It can be expressed with mathematical precision. If you cannot express in the mathematical precision, then it is matter of interpretation. But if you can mathematically establish that, then it becomes universal. Prediction can be made on the basis of induction method, and by that we can make a prediction. It need not to be an accurate prediction, but better prediction. Mathematics inculcate logical thinking, and basically it eliminates the ambiguity and create evidence that can be universally acceptable. Now I give you an example. For example, we all know and accept that smoking is affects your cancer risk. Okay, but you must have also seen that there are many people who never smoke in their life, and they also get cancer. And at the same time, you will also find that there are many people who smoke throughout their life. They are smoking daily, like Winston Churchill, like Shah Rukh Khan, and they never get cancer. So if we go by reason, it can be established that cancer has no relationship with smoking, because non-smoker can get cancer and smokers can avoid cancer. They may not have cancer. So how to establish that? So you can see how mathematics can help. Now this is the data which I have taken from US website. Nearly 12% of US adults smoke cigarette. This is the 2021 data. And about 80% of the lung cancers as well as 80% of all lung cancer deaths are due to smoking. Okay? So if we use this mathematical analysis or empirical data, we can see that 12% who smoke, they contribute 80% of the lung cancer. And 88% people who are non-smokers, they have only 20% lung cancer. So from here you can easily see that if anybody smoke, the chances of getting cancer multiplies by almost 10 times, isn't it? Now imagine that if this mathematical proof has not been given, then people can by argument prove that smoking has no correlation with cancer. So the reasoning would have been totally failing in their goal. But once we have produced this statistic, then we can convince the people that there is a correlation between smoker and smoking and lung cancer. So it should not smoke if you want to avoid cancer. Okay. But so you understand how the reasoning can become more beautiful, convincing, and universal if we use statistic with that. Now, in the next slide, we can discuss about how mathematics can be used in different fields of life to make it better. Reasoning can be better, like ethics and morality. Now, you must have seen, if you are a student of ethics, I am sure everybody must have studied ethics who is appearing for civil services. You must have seen that there are multiple theories. There are virtue ethics, then there is a care ethics, then there is a deontology, and then there is a utilitarian, and there is a so many theories. And everybody says that my theory is correct. But whether any theory has been tested on the life, whether there is any derivation, any proof that somebody who speaks truth is more happy, leads a better life, or somebody who is corrupt leads a bad life, is there any proof? No. Now, unless we have some sort of documentary evidence, unless we have some empirical data, we can't convince. And everybody will follow their own way. You understand? Same way law. We make a law, but we never verify whether that law is achieving its purpose or not. Suppose there has been a law made for against rape, let us say, or murder. Very strict laws has been made, or against corruption, some law has been made. Have we done any empirical study to establish that it has reduced corruption or it has reduced the crime against women? Because unless we do that, we will not know whether our law is good or bad. Same way, there are a lot of things we do in our cultures and tradition. We have a gender-based roles, the way we dress, the way we are getting education, the way we have different fastings, rituals, and prayers. Whether we have tested that those rituals or fastings or prayer or following those cultures is making the life better. And otherwise, what happens that Indians will think my culture is great. Americans will think their culture is great. Hindus will think their culture is great. Their whatever written in their books is good. Muslims will think their what is written in their books is good, and they'll fight with each other. The only way we can decide something which is good or bad is by using mathematics. By reasoning, we can't prove. Only by having empirical data we can establish this is good and this is bad, and then everybody will agree. Same way we can use mathematics to remove our biases and prejudices. There are a lot of pseudoscience which is there. You do this and you get that. A lot of superstition is there. We can remove those superstitions and pseudoscience if we can use mathematics in that. Any amount of logic is not going to convince. Any amount of reasoning is not going to convince. But if you use empirical data, that will convince the people. And we can use this mathematics for developing scientific temper and critical thinking. Okay. So these are the areas, where we can suggest that we can use mathematics. So instead of reasoning, which is not able to achieve the purpose, if we use mathematical evidence, empirical data, then that will be able to convince the people. And then we can have a universal theory of ethics, universal practices, and everybody will follow that, or at least most of the people will follow that. And in that way, we can reduce the conflict and create a better world. So finally, in conclusion, we can say you can't improve what you cannot measure. So as I said, that if you want to improve anything, whether you want to improve your culture or religion or ethics, you must measure it. Whether this is leading to a better outcome or bad outcome, and then eliminate what is bad and accept what is good. Mathematics can help moving from anecdotal evidence to empirical evidence. That means just because somebody is smoking but not getting cancer, it does not mean that the smoking does not come cancer, get cancer. Okay, somebody was never smoked and got cancer, so you can say, look, it has no correlation. It can happen to anybody. No, get empirical evidence, and that will be more convincing. It can help moving from subjective to objective. That means just because I think so, no, that will not be right. Objective means which is based on the data. Without empirical validation, reasoning is empty. So we should use mathematical or empirical evidence to improve reasoning and discard the blind faith. So much of blind faith is there in the society. So that we can fight only if we have data and mathematics. Develop a critical thinking using reason to avoid superstition and pursue truth. This is very important. So many superstition are there. Don't do this on Monday. Don't do this on Thursday. No, all sort of thing. Then you have a lot of things like Kundali and this Muhurat and all that. You could do a critical study of that. Then you will be able to remove the superstition based on that. So mathematics can make reasoning and intellectually engaging as artistic pursuit. It will make the reasoning more beautiful. Okay. How can mathematics be used in law? As I said, Sasidhar, that if a law is made, let us say the GST law is made or a criminal law is made, uh, if you are replacing a law, then we must see whether that law is achieving its purpose or not. Suppose you make a law and that leads to more crime against women. I'm just giving an example. Suppose you make a very strict law and that is leading to more crime against the woman, then the purpose of the law itself is defeated. You understand the point? So we have to see that whether the law is right to education, let us say, or anything you can think about. If we make any law, then we must measure as to whether it is achieving the goal or not, or it is how much it is achieving the goal. And so we must constantly change the law so that it achieves the goal. No, Muskan, if data can be collected in the random basis or following the proper scientific procedure, then that data will not be biased, provided you collect enough data, and it should be randomized. You see, all the scientific evidence is based on this. All the scientific evidence is based on this. Can't we develop antithesis to this essay? You see, you can always develop antithesis to this essay, but there is a little scope of antithesis here. But of course, you can do, and you can say that basically music is separate. Music is touching the heart, and mathematics is something which is touching the reason. So they are not comparable, but I think you need not do that also. So remember that it's not necessary that every time you should have a conclusion. Only thing is that I must have told you about antithesis. For example, let us say honesty is the best policy. Okay, honesty is the best policy, let us say. Now, why I say that antithesis is required in that? Because on one direction, we want that we can't deny this quotation that honesty is the best policy. We can't say that it should be corrupt. But at the same time, when we see the reality, we see that most of the people are not honest. That means the reality is different. So when you find that the theory which has been given is not conforming to the reality, in that case, antithesis makes a sense, as I told you in the first case. But in this case, maybe the scope is limited, but you can always think about that. Okay. Okay, so let us now come to the next very interesting. A society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. Now, of course, this is a very interesting topic and very beautiful topic also. That most of the people are having focus on the charity that give money to the poor, help them. But have you ever thought that what impact it make on the society? If people are living on charity, can they live with self-respect? Can they be respected by other people? Can they contribute to the society? So how we can make a society better? So this particular topic says that if we have more justice in the society, then the need of charity will be less. And so we should try to move from the charity based society to a justice based society. Okay, so that is basically something which is a very interesting topic. So first of all, we should know who has given this topic. The society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity is a quote by Ralph Nader, who is an American political activist, author, lecturer, or attorney. Of course, you are not supposed to know the origin of the quote, but just for your information. Shekhar, you are saying justice and charity are two important pillars, but a better society is one where there is no need of charity that we are going to establish. And this is what is the goal of this particular essay. The less charity is a better society. More justice is a better society. Less charity is a better society. So our goal should be to move from charity to justice. That is what I am going to discuss in this particular essay, and I am going to convince you, or I am going to establish that. That should be your goal when you are writing an essay like that. Okay. I'm not saying eliminate charity. Perhaps in no society charity can be totally eliminated. But if you see any developed country, the charity is less, justice is more. Okay, so these are the different, topics, brainstorming questions. What is social justice? Because we are talking about justice in the society. What is charity? Examples of injustice which is there in the society we can discuss, and how that is leading to charity. Why people need charity, uh, and why should we avoid charity? Because generally charity is considered to be a good thing. So why should we avoid that? What are the flip side of charity? How can justice reduce charity? And how we can promote justice in a society. Okay, so these are some of the things which we are going to discuss in this particular essay. So as I said, that always ask these questions from the topic itself, and that will generate sufficient material for your essay. These are some of the quotations which I have selected, but as I said, you can always pick up more quotations or different quotations. Charity degrade those who receives it and harden those who dispense it. Suppose you have to live on charity. Imagine that Muskan or Sasidhar, or you know that you have to live on charity. Will you like that? How many of you like living on charity? How many of you like to live on charity? Tell me. So this is the one quote. Please type your answer that if you want to live in charity, how many of you live on charity? This is injustice. This is justice, not charity. That is wanting in the world, by Mary Wollstonecraft. Then great indebtedness does not make man grateful, but revengeful. And if little charity is not forgotten, it turns into a groaning bomb. Because if you give a charity and we don't forget it, जिसको हम हिंदी में कहते हैं नेकी कर दरिया में डाल, तो अगर हम किसी के साथ if you do something good and if you are constantly reminding that person that you have done that, then that basically is very very dangerous, and the person will become revengeful. In politics we have equality, and in social economic life we have inequality. How long shall we continue to deny equality of our social and economic life? If we continue to deny for long, shall we do so only by putting our political democracy at peril, by P.R. Ambedkar? So this is another beautiful quote which we can use in the essay. One sec. Okay, so charity as a freebie is detrimental. Yes, any form of charity. I'm going to establish that. I'm going to discuss about that. Okay. So in the introduction, we can define the main terms like the justice and charity. So we know justice basically means the quality of being fair, that and just. And to achieve justice, individuals should receive what they deserve. I mean, justice does not mean equality, that you treat everybody equal. That is injustice. But people should get level playing field. People should get what they deserve. Now, when we talk about charities, basically represent the voluntary giving of help, usually in the form of money to those in need. So, charity basically is connected with the money, or any type of help which we give, but that is voluntary. It is not forced. Here we can use the quote of George Sand that charity degrade those who receive it and harden those who dispense it. The meaning of this is, again, you can have an essay on this topic also, because our heart get hardened, because what happens that Once we start giving charity, more and more people want charity, and then we think that they should work, and why they are not working, why they want charity. I have earned my money with so much effort, and why they want my money. On the body, we can say that people need charity because of inequality and justice. See, nobody wants charity. I don't think that any of you want charity. If you are given a choice, nobody wants charity because charity is very degrading. And I will be using this quote also. रहमन वो नर मर चुके जो कुछ मांगन जाए उनसे पहले वो मुए जिन मुख निकसत नाए. It's a very beautiful quotation, and the meaning is that जो लोग मांगने जाते हैं, the person who go for charity or begging, they are dead already. That means emotionally they are dead. I mean, it is so humiliating that you go and beg something from somebody, isn't it? So you really kill your respect and honor when you beg. But suppose the other person refused to give the charity, even though he is in a position to give the charity, he is even worse than that person. So the meaning is that first of all, we should not ask for charity. And the second thing is that if somebody asks for charity, we must not say no, we must give something. Because not giving charity is actually very humiliating for that person also. Okay. So people need charity because they're in inequality. And charity make the recipient inferior and make him lose the self-respect, isn't it? Anybody who is demanding money, who is asking for charity, do you respect such person? Nobody respect that person, isn't it? So at the same time, the giver of charity feels superior to that person, and he expects the recipient to be always obliged to him. And when the person does not reciprocate, in that situation, he start hating that person. I've given you so much of money and you are not obliged. So charity degrades both the giver and taker. And then we can use this particular doha and always translate that into Hindi. The need of charity arises when there is no social justice to put a balm on the wounds of poor and needy. When there is no social justice, then the only way you can console those people who are poor and needy by giving them charity. But if there is a justice, no need of such type of action. Now, how injustice is there in the society, I will just give you the latest data of 2023. According to the latest data, the richest 1% grabbed nearly two-thirds of all new wealth worth 42 trillion, which is created since 2020. Almost twice as much money as the bottom 99% of the world's population. Imagine this is the level of the injustice in the society. That 1% people are earning two times more money than the 99% people in the while ordinary people are making daily sacrifices, essentials like food and super rich have outdone even their wildest dreams. At least 1.7 billion workers now live in countries where inflation is outpacing wages. That means their wealth is actually, their income is actually reducing. And over 180 million people are going hungry every. Women and girls are often eating less and last and make nearly 60% of the world's hungry population. So, friends, you can see that so much of injustice is there in the society. And it is because we cannot remove that, we are not removing that injustice. So, we have to do something for the poorest of the poor people by giving them charity. Okay. So, charity is, but that is not something which is good because it is killing the soul of the people. Now, what type of charity we are giving in the absence of justice, we can discuss. For example, free education, healthcare, housing to poor. But that is causing resentment to the taxpayer because they say we are paying the tax and these people are enjoying the life. When we are giving the reservation to the backward class, EWS, women, that causes resentment in the society because they feel that these posts are going to the undeserving people. Huge illegal money is spent in election to buy votes from the poor and weak causes corruption, casteism, and communalism. Because there are billions of people, there are millions of people who are very poor, so you can buy their votes by spending money. And in the last election, 50,000 crore rupees were spent. And if suppose people are not poor and people have self-respect, they will never give their votes on money, isn't it? Then gender and caste bias laws made to protect the weak causes injustice in the inequality. Now here, because we are not able to remove the discrimination based on gender and caste, so what we are doing is that we are giving special privileges based on gender and caste, and that is creating injustice, and that is creating an anger in the society, because the people who are, who are suffering because of that in equal law, they basically complain and they feel that they are not treated fairly. So, what are the challenges of charity as a means of social justice? When the charity is used to give the social justice, what are the problems we face? First of all, dependability. The person who is given charity becomes dependable, and he cannot stand on its own feet. He will always be needing charity. So permanently, you have made him crippled. It hampers the economic growth. It hampers the economic growth because they are not contributing to the society, and the money which is given to charity to them can be used for better economic purpose like building roads, schools, hospitals. Okay, it leads to corruption also. It is unsustainable on the long term basis because when the number of people who are getting charity is more and the number of people who are earning that revenue or that money is less, then basically it becomes unsustainable. And many countries are facing problems because of this populist policy, which is dividing the society on the basis of caste, race, creed, or gender. Because when you are giving certain benefits to the people on the basis of caste, race, creed, and gender, the other people basically feel that they are not treated fairly, and there is an inherent anger on them. Poor economics, because when in a society, suppose charity is going to 50% people, then they are living a comfortable life because they are getting free ration, free house, free education, and they're not contributing to the society, and they're wasting their resources. So it causes a back poor economics. Many, you see, I agree with that, Muskan, but remember one thing, that if you are hungry, uh, you see, if suppose you have sufficient money, you have a choice to take bribe or not, or do illegal thing or not. And I tell you that many people don't do the wrong thing if they have sufficient resources. Because suppose you are taking bribe and you are caught, you are doing a crime and you are caught, then your life is finished. But when you are hungry, when basic needs are not fulfilled, in that case, even for your survival, you have to do something wrong. So the comparison is not correct, because the rich people do the wrong thing because of choice, but the poor people are forced to do the wrong thing because of the need of survival. Now, how justice reduces the need for charity? This is the most important thing we have to discuss, because it empowers all the individual. It provides a level playing field and equal opportunities. For example, if you go to countries like America or Germany, you will find that every child is given everybody studies in the public schools, and these public schools are able to provide them a quality education. Public hospitals are able to provide them the quality health care. So that is how everybody get a good opportunity, everybody get the equal opportunity, and then they are able to succeed in life. But in our country like India, for example, you will find that if you are a rich person, you can send your children to the best schools, we provide them best coaching, then they can go to the private engineering college, medical college, and they can succeed. But if you are a poor person, you get a very pathetic quality of education in the government schools, then you can't compete with them, isn't it? So, if you, instead of that, instead of giving any reservation or anything like that, if you give them the level playing field or the same quality of education, then that will not need any reservation. And so, all the type of annoyance which is there, anger which is there against reservation, let us say, or freebies, that will go away. That will develop a sense of belonging and nationalism. Just like in a family, if suppose there is a person who is not earning more, then you treat them with dignity in the same way in the society. If the poor people are treated with dignity, they will have more belonging for the society and the country. And it will also help them make everybody contribute in the national development, because everybody will be doing the job. Otherwise, if you're getting charity and you are doing nothing, you're not contributing to national development. And it gives respect and honor to everyone. The examples are like Right to Education Act, Ayushman Bharat. These are some of the examples which we can give to show as to how justice is done or we are moving toward the justice. And if suppose everybody get education and everybody get healthcare, then naturally that will give level playing field, and then everybody will be able to succeed in future. Then we can discuss about some of the steps which we can take to improve the justice in a society, like the legal reforms we can do to ensure justice to everyone in time-bound manner. Free quality education we can provide. Progressive taxation, that means high taxes on the super rich. Electoral reforms we can eliminate by the use of black money. We can also suggest that we should eliminate the discrimination based on caste, religion, and gender, because then the charity requirement, suppose there is a casteism, that is why there is a caste-based reservation. If the casteism go away, there is no need of caste-based reservation. Strong rules and enforcement are required to reduce corruption. Awareness campaign is required to remove the discrimination. We can also say community participation engagement, because that will keep put everybody together. Okay. So in the conclusion, we can say that eliminate the need of charity by creating a juster society. So we must, instead of promoting charity, populism, we must try to give justice in the society. As I said, provide free education, quality education to everybody, quality healthcare, and you see how the society transforms. Justice reduces the need of charity. We agree with that. If there is more justice in the society, there will be less need of charity. It will provide equal opportunity to all the citizens. It will eliminate all sort of discrimination and make everybody self-sufficient. And so we can finally conclude with the quotation of Pranab Mukherjee. Inclusive growth should not be mere slogan, but a fundamental driving force for sustainable development. We have already seen how the development is lopsided. Some people are developing while most of the people are poor. Instead of that, if we give justice, we allow everybody to develop. In that case, the need of charity will not be there. It will lead to more acceptance toward the. Yeah, you are very right, Muskan. Okay. Now we come to the final topic of today, that is education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in the school. One of my favorite quotation by one of my favorite scientists. This quotation is by Albert Einstein. What do you mean by this quotation? That education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. Okay. For most of the people, education is something which is what they learn in the school. They will always say, how educated you are. They'll say, look, I have done BTech, I am MA, or I am such and such. They don't, because after the school, they stop learning. Absolutely right, Shekhar. This is a quote by Albert Einstein. And it basically says that, the school education is not sufficient. School education is not sufficient. That will not help you leading a good life. It should be a lifelong learner. That is basically the message of that. Okay. Okay. So first, the brainstorming questions. Education is what remains after one has forgotten that one has learned in school. So here, the important points is what is education, what we learn in school, what is lacking in school learning, because all of us acquired school here means school, college, universities. That is basically everything is covered under school. Okay. But what we don't learn in the school, that is also something we can discuss. And why school learning is not sufficient for education, then what is the real purpose of education? And how we can become truly educated? We can discuss about that. And why we forget the lessons of the school. Today suppose somebody asks you what you learn in high school or intermediate or universities, we hardly remember. Why we forget that? We can discuss, and why lifelong learning is important to education. Okay, so this is something which we are going to discuss. That instead of formal education, Muskan, we should go for the informal education also, and we should develop the habit of learning. Lifelong. Now, some of the very beautiful quotes which we can use in this particular essay is: the illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So we have to unlearn what is wrong, what is not good. We must learn new things and relearn what we have not learned properly. This is what is important. If we can't do that, we are just relying upon what we have done in our graduation, then those are the illiterate. Benjamin Franklin is very important quote. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So you are not acquiring knowledge just for the sake of it, because you can make investment in the bank or you can make investment in the property, but the best investment is when you acquire new knowledge, because that will make you a better person. That will give you a better life. Mahatma Gandhi's quote: "Live as long as if you have to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever." That means lifelong learning is important. Albert Einstein's another quote: "Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death." Because if you learn, if you acquire knowledge, your intellectual growth takes place. If you stop learning, your intellectual growth stops. So we must try to learn throughout our life. Then Ray LeBron's quote: "You learn something every day if you have pay attention." And I tell you that you can really learn every day from your life if you are just attentive and you are observing the thing very closely. Okay. Now let's start with the introduction. Education we can define first. It is an act or process of imparting or acquiring knowledge, skill, developing the power of reasoning and judgment, and generally of preparing oneself and other for intellectually for mature life. So basically, education is something, any process, when we give or acquire knowledge, education, or we develop the power of reasoning, judgment, or we prepare ourselves for a better life. Because sometimes you are just reading for self help. So that is also education. Skill education is generally, when we are in the schools and colleges, the goal is not to acquire knowledge, but the goal is to acquire top marks in the examination, get good grades, or get good jobs. Our focus is not on the education as much as getting good marks and jobs. And most of the school knowledge, is not useful in the real life. You must have seen that in the school. We have learned about trigonometry and algebra and, calculus and so many things which have never used in our life. And because we are not using it, so people forget what they've learned in the schools. And unless you update your knowledge, then what happens that you become ignorant, and then your knowledge become outdated, and then you are like an illiterate person if you don't update your knowledge. So this quote of Einstein explains the futility of school learning for real education. Yeah, I'm coming to that, Sasidhar. I'm just coming to that. You are absolutely right. Now, so we have introduced what is education, and we have understood, we have also explained as to why school education is not sufficient, why we forget school education. Let's move further. You see, the problem with the school education is that the knowledge which we acquire is general and basic. And if you want to really make use of the knowledge, you have to get into the depth of the knowledge. And that knowledge is not delivered in the schools. That knowledge is generally you have to acquire yourself. Mind of the children is immature and they are unable to understand it properly. So what they do is that they memorize all the knowledge and they reproduce in the examination without actually understanding it, because they focus on getting rank and job. And they stop learning once the incentive of marks and job is over. That means once the school is over, once they get the job, they stop learning because now there is no purpose of learning. But what happens? The new knowledge is created every day, and that is why the school learning become very quickly outdated, because what you learn in your school today much better knowledge is available. And in absence of the latest knowledge, a person become outdated and ignorant. Now, what are the problem in the school learning? First of all, school learning is institutionalized, superficial, and oversimplified. In schools, every theory is explained in a very, very simplified form. Very, very simplified form. While the things are very complex. So you just have a superficial knowledge. And you think that you have learned physics, you have learned you have learned history, but actually your knowledge is very superficial. Another problem is that often the curriculum is affected by the ideology of the government. About history, Napoleon said, history is the set of lies or fables agreed upon. That means, you see, the government changes, the history changes. Because whatever suits to the incumbent government, they change the curriculum according to that. Every subject they change. So as a result, you don't get the full knowledge. You understand? Because we focus on rote learning, because in the examination, if you want to get good marks, you have to reproduce the same content. And that's why our focus is not to understand the topic rather than just rote learn and reproduce the same thing. Our modern education system discourages innovation, creativity, and perspective and dissent. Because if you give your own idea, if you dissent with what the teacher has taught you, what is written in the books, you will get poor marks. And that's why we don't do this. And because we have passed through that education system for 20, 25 years, that become our habit. Throughout our life, we do the same thing. Our learning is examination oriented, and we forget whatever we have learned after the examination. The semester system, we learn whatever is there in the syllabus. Next semester, if you ask, people don't remember. We fail to develop the critical thinking, creativity, and character in these schools. The focus in school is how what to learn instead of how to learn. So you have to learn whatever is given in the book rather than learning itself. It discourages wide learning, deeper understanding because you see today students are scoring 100% marks. How they are scoring 100% marks in maths and physics? Are they great mathematician? Or they get physicist? Or they are like Shakespeare? Even Shakespeare will not be able to score 100% marks in the language paper. Our people are scoring. How? Because they are ditto reproducing what is there in the book. So what is the learning? Zero. Computer can do that better, isn't it? But why we need to know about these topics? These are not explained. No, these topics are basically, because there are different fields of life, Muskan. Uh, Now tomorrow you may want to go to sociology, somebody want to pursue art, somebody want to go to mathematics, somebody want to become a physicist. So the idea is that you are given introduction of every topic so that you have the basics. And if you want to choose a particular profession, a particular subject, you can choose. Because unless you know the basic, how will you choose, isn't it? So that's why the basic knowledge is given in the school level, okay? So that you can learn the things which you like more. Now, it is very important for learning lifelong. Here we can quote this quote that illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Now, most of the school knowledge you must have found that it has no use to solve the real life problem. Now, you see a lot of people, for example, they are engineers, mechanical engineer, civil engineer. Now they are into the job of IT. What knowledge they are using? Nothing. They become civil servant. What knowledge they are using? So most of the knowledge which we have acquired in the schools and colleges, we are never using that. Another problem is that the real life problem are new and they need updated knowledge and creative thinking. Whichever profession you join, you will find that the problem which you are going to face that has not been explained in your schools. And for that you require different books, different teachers, different type of training. And that's why lifelong learning is needed to understand and solve the real life problems. Now, another very important thing is that not that schools deliberately don't teach you the right thing, because there are certain types of knowledge or lessons that we can learn only when we are on the job, when we are facing the real world. Okay, so these are the lessons which can we learn only when we are after the school. For example, soft skills, teamwork, leadership, communication. In the school, there's no need of teamwork. Every individual is assessed of their own. Even if suppose you have no friend, if you write the top marks, if you write the best answer, you'll get full marks. But suppose you are an SP of a district or DM of a district, or tax commissioner, then you will understand that nothing is possible by alone, do working alone. You have to take the team along. As a district magistrate, as a police officer, as a SP, you can't be effective unless you are able to take your team along with you. And so that is a soft skill. That cannot be taught in the school. That will be learned only when you are on the job, when you are in the real life. In the same way, empathy, emotional intelligence, that can be developed only when you deal with the people. will deal with the different people. Ethics, morality, and virtue. You may learn the theory in your life, but as I said, there are multiple reasons for everything. The real lessons you learn only when you are on the job. The importance of resilience and persistence. That you can learn only when you are failing in your life, the pain you are suffering. And then only you learn how important it is to actually fight, how important it is to persevere. Critical thinking and rationality. That also you learn in the real life because in the schools, whatever has been given is a filtered knowledge. All you have to do is to mug up that and reproduce. But in the real life, what you are getting from WhatsApp or your elders, your leaders, your that is not correct. So there you will learn to develop the critical thinking. Innovation and creativity, again, you can learn only when you're facing the real problems. Problem solving and decision making, that is again when you are actually having the problem. Because as far as the school problems are concerned, there are already standard answers are available. But in the real life problem, there is no standard answer. So only when you face the real life problem, your creativity will be tested, your knowledge will be tested, and your decision making ability will be tested because only when the decision become right, you know that you have taken the right decision. Then your adaptability and tolerance will also be tested only when you are in the job. So these are the things which cannot be taught in the school, and that's why it is very important that throughout our life we should keep learning. So finally, in the conclusion, we can say that learning must never stop as knowledge creation never stops. There is no limit to the amount of knowledge we can acquire in our lifetime. And here we can use this quote: "You can learn something every day if you pay attention." So learning is a lifelong journey which should never stop. And why we should acquire education? Because it will help us understand the problems at the deep level and solve them easily. And the education purpose is not that you should, get good marks, but the real education must develop tolerance, build character, inculcate values, and develop wisdom to lead a better life. That should be the purpose, and for that you have to constantly learn. Finally, we can conclude with the prediction of Albert Einstein: intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death. This is how we can end the essay. Now, Muskan is saying the fifth point. What is the fifth point, Muskan? You're talking about the critical thinking and rationality. Are you talking about that? So, critical thinking and rationality is also something which we learn only when we are in the real life. Because in the textbook, every problem, whatever is given to you, is something which is already tested and it is verified. But in the real life, you will have false knowledge, right knowledge, good people, bad people, and there, if you are not able to think critically, you will not be able to basically face the real life problem. So critical thinking will help you find out the truth from untruth, reality from unreality, and that will help you in basically, becoming a more effective person and lead a better life. Okay. What is practical wisdom and how to use and solve? You see, practical wisdom also comes only by you. First of all, Shekhar, the practical wisdom can come when you practice, when you are on the job. For example, if you are a civil servant, you are a district collector. In that case, you are facing problems every day, and then if you are solving the problem, you develop the practical wisdom. But for the civil servant aspirants, many case studies are asked in the ethics paper, where you are given a real life problem and you are supposed to solve that problem, but you don't have the actual experience of becoming a district collector or SP or a tax commissioner or the government officer. So how to basically do that? So as we say that you don't have to learn everything from your own experience. You can always learn from the experience of other people. So one way is that if you solve more case studies, you will gradually develop the sense as to how to solve such type of problems. Okay. The second thing is that you acquire the knowledge of the particular subject. For example, the law of corruption, ethics, morality, all the different type of RTI and all that. So that will also help you in understanding how to solve the case studies. Okay. So practical wisdom is developed when you practice the things in the real life. But because in the case studies you are asked the real problems, but you can't be, I mean, unless you qualify, you can't become a civil servant. In that case, the only way is to learn from different people who are already in the civil services, or learn from the case studies which are there in the books. Okay. Okay, we'll see whether we'll take, I mean, this case studies we'll discuss later. Anyway, thank you very much for joining. I will, whenever I will take classes, or maybe I will upload the videos at the right time because I'm now traveling. So I will inform that in the in the Telegram, okay? And I will post the PPT of this class as I promised on the Telegram channel today. Okay. So thank you very much for joining the session, and wish you all the very best. Uh, Thank you.